I've never understood the concept of studying comedy. You have all these, great comedians, and yeah, they're funny, but from their perspective, it's a career, and careers are something we go to school for, right? But there are funny people out there who are just like existing, and all they do is make jokes, just being who they are, just being natural. And here we all are, like looking at comedy and being like, all right, how can I be funny? How can I make jokes? Oh, I gotta study comedy. We gotta look at the funniest letter. The funniest letter is P. Let's smush in as many letters that starting with the letter P as we can into this comedic routine, and this is the equation we get for people to laugh. And that's just, if you think about it, it's kind of weird. My sister is the funniest person I know. She honestly, I feel like if she started a social media like a TikTok or whatever, just make stupid short videos, not even her just being in a character, just her talking, making jokes, she could pop off. And she doesn't sit there studying comedy. Maybe she does, I don't know, but from what I see, she observes a situation, remixes it in her head, and puts some sort of output that's just it's funny, because it might be a personality, it might be what she knows, all the media she's I don't know, but she's not sitting there thinking, okay, I need to take this situation and like put it through this formula to make it funny. She just like naturally does it. I she's not sitting down in the comedy book studying comedy to make people laugh. And so I say this story to introduce this concept called. This is something that I've been noticing over the past couple weeks, and now it's just my new favorite concept that I think I've created, and I call it the wrong question. It's when you ask yourself the wrong question. And why is the question wrong? As well, it's because you're not seeing any improvements from asking this question. You're not you have this skill, you have this idea, you're in this area in your life where you're not improving because I think you're asking the wrong question. And I'm just this video is just gonna be a long list of examples that I've thought of over the weeks, and me just talking about each concept and like how I can further, illustrate this point to you, which I coined the wrong question. Um, I feel like this is a really really important video, one of the most important ones I've made on this channel in a long time. Um, Very similar to the one I made on like the uncorniness of God. This video and that is like big concepts. It's pretty life changing in my opinion. So what's the point of this wrong question? Things are not working. You've tried, doing this, you tried doing that, you've tried like switching the way you approach it, you've tried switching the way you think about it, but nothing's changing, you're still stuck. You're asking the wrong question. And so I've wrote this down and I'm going to try to break it down for you. You ask a different question to take a different approach to whatever you're doing right then. And so this approach might be that you have a fixed mindset. So I'm just gonna read this off what I wrote. Don't enter with a fixed mindset. Don't assume your thinking is the best approach to any situation. Urge yourself to think on a higher gear, more open, like you're in therapy. There was this Hamza video that came out recently, and he talks about 3 tiers of how people spend money. The first tier is you spend, like he used the example of plane tickets. So the first example is that you spend 15 grand. For in his case, it was a trip to Las Vegas from, I think the UK or whatever. So you can spend 15K on this first class plane ticket, and that was the first tier spending. The second tier he described as saving. So he thought, okay, I'm going to take this 15K, invest into a Rolex watch, and in a couple years' time, I can sell this watch again and retain that value, just through doing that. So that was saving. And the third gear was investing. And he said, I can take this 15 grand, buy like a high-end like specialist on like some, I don't know, he has like this business, right? So he invested into getting this speaker. So he brings the speaker onto his platform, and then the speaker would attract all these new customers. And then in his, like, according to his math, I don't know what metrics he used, he is able to 3x that 15K. So he invests 15K and he gets like 45 grand back in returns just from investing in his business. And that was like, to him, the third and probably the most highest gear that he has found to thinking. As in this case, it would be financially. And so I like these gears of thinking. And so when you come across a situation, asking, first of all, recognizing that you're asking the wrong question, and then figuring out what the right question to ask in a certain situation is bringing yourself to a higher gear. And so, like, switching into higher gear is like, um, you know, the context that you get from the Bible, or the context that you get from people smarter than you, your parents, you know, certain role models that you have, people you look up to, and the more experiences you have, the more fine tuned these gears can be. But when you're asking a different question than the one you were asking before, you're able to, I guess this is best illustrated with an example. Um, I have a couple on the list, but there's one that came to mind first, where every time I come home from school, my sister rides her bike to school. My littlest sister, not the comedic one. She's in fifth grade currently, and she goes to school on her bike. She comes back at around 3:15, and she leaves her bike on the driveway, and this can be annoying for several reasons. One of which, I can't park my car if the bike is blocking the garage. The second of which, it just looks bad when the garage is open, but the bike is not even in the garage because she just hopped off her bike in the driveway, opened the garage, and walked in without putting the bike in. It's anyway. Trying to train her somehow, I don't know, to park her bike in the garage before she goes in the house to watch TV for 3 hours. Sorry, it slipped out. Sorry if you, but it's kind of facts some days. Not every day, but some days. And so, but yeah, annoying on several levels. But that just adds to the challenge of, okay, how do I convince my sister to put her bike in? That right there was the wrong question. How do I get my sister to put her bike in the garage? After thinking about it, after switching to a higher, like, quote unquote gear of thinking, is what is like a good example of what I feel is the wrong question. And I'm still trying to figure out what the right question is. This video is not about trying to find the right question, it's just recognizing a problem and thinking on a higher gear. I think the right question would be, how can I love my sister in this situation? How can I show affection? How can I show forgiveness? Or how can I be like Jesus in this situation? And I don't know. Is that going to get her to put her bike in? I don't know. I don't think so, because why would it? But at the same time, you never know. It's kind of like, when I was a child, my gym PE teacher used to tell me, we were learning how to play volleyball, and so, like, there's different ways you, um, you know, pike. I don't know what the word is, but you hit the ball with, like, your arms, right? So, she said, if you hit the ball like 5 times and it always goes to the left, and you do it the sixth time and it still goes to the left, that means you're not changing anything, and, like, you should be changing something, because you're trying to get it right. If you keep doing it one way and it always goes like that, the same reliable way every time, change something up. Like, don't, like, stay, like, do the same thing over. So she says, now you change something and it goes always to the right, and you think, okay, you're supposed to think, okay, great, now you're just adjusting again, whatever your thumbs were, however your arms were, to make it go in the middle, and you just keep doing that until you get it right. And so you kind of use this into asking questions, because the questions at the base of it lead to action. And I think that's the most important part. There's a lot of discussion that I've been hearing lately, um, but the core is when you have this mindset of thinking, it can create a lot of resentment or internal bantering within the mind, of like unfairness with the world. Like, so if you have this mode of thinking, you're going to be bitter at the world. That's because the framework you think of the world is like against you. So you have like this victim mindset, so you become bitter and like you stay stagnant and just don't improve. Um, Asking a different question, being open minded, being willing to say maybe the way I'm thinking about certain things is not correct will first of all give you freedom and also allow you to try different things until somehow some way maybe you eventually get to the right framework of thinking that actually gets you places in life. So that was a very abstract group of sentences I just said, but I can apply this to like women because it's just very easy. A lot of people like red pillars or I don't know what the word is, black pillars, yeah. Black pillars are sour toward women. And then there's the self-fulfilling prophecy of, well, because they're sour, they don't get with any woman, and then it's like, oh, they hate me. And it's just over and over that vicious cycle. They're asking, I don't know what question they're asking, but that framework that they have in mind is not serving them at all, uh, to any extent. And so you can apply, like, if I switch this around into what's happening with my sister, if I'm always thinking in my head, and what's happening in my head is gonna regurgitate outside into the actions, right? If I'm always thinking, how can I possibly get her to park her bike when she comes home, I'm gonna be chasing her like this, and she's gonna be pulling back like this. So every day, she's gonna remember that I'm gonna come get her and say put the bike in. She might, I don't know if this is like actually gonna be what the case is, but she might purposefully leave the bike outside just to annoy me. And I feel like a lot of situations are like this, like genuinely. So I don't know. I'm testing out this new model about being more loving. We'll see how that goes, but I'm trying a new thing. So let's look at a couple examples that I've written here. So let's say you're on a date, and some people might ask, "Hey, so what are your favorite hobbies? What are your favorite hobbies?" I just feel like it's a wrong question, and it's not something. There's nothing wrong with it inherently. It's just that, okay, the goal of a date is to know the person, right? To find like if you're matched with them, whether it's a first date or a thousandth date. What are your hobbies? Just don't feel like a sort of question you'd ask to get to know a soul. And so you're thinking like, okay, what are you talking about? Okay, what I think, right? Why I think this is the wrong question is because you're supposed to be doing those things. Instead of asking, oh well, yeah, I like bird watching. Like you would be bird watching like with her, or like she would be bird watching with you, whatever. You know, you don't like sit down in a coffee and oh yeah, so yeah, what are your favorite hobbies? Like I don't know. Is this something very? I feel like maybe some of you might say, okay, you're being too hard. Like, I it just feels like a very like it feels plastic. It feels like to do list. Like, all right, do this, do this, do this, and then she'll like me. Like, it doesn't flow into getting to know someone properly. If it was not a girl, if it was just a regular guy, like let's say if it was a coworker and he'd be working with me on a project, I'd be like, hey, what's good? And like I'm not trying to ask him like what his hobbies are. I'll be like, okay, so this is our project, so we probably just start working on it. Well, okay, I guess you suppose you're working on when you're on a date, you're working on the relationship. So when you're working on the relationship, you would ask her questions that are important to the relationship. Yeah. You'd ask her questions that are important to the relationship. What are your hobbies? I mean, come on. The first thought that's coming to mind as I say this out loud is that like maybe people are a bit shy to get right into the deep stuff. But if you don't get into the deep stuff like right away, you might never get to that point. If you're working on knowing a person, that relationship, what are your hobbies just seem you're gonna know them anyway. Like the more you hang out with them, the more they say, "Oh, let's do this together." Like, what do you even say? Like, if I asked that question, if I was asked that question in like that sort of setting, what do I say? Like, oh yeah, I like to draw. Like, oh, am I supposed to flatter this person now? Like, I don't want to flatter this person with what I do. It's like weird. I think it's just the wrong question because the goal, what is that goal? What is your goal with the question? It seems kind of directionless. It's just like throwing it out there and hoping something will land. Like, oh, maybe let's say you both like to draw. Okay, now you're gonna both go on a tangent about drawing, which is nice, which is great, actually, for finding similarities. But now you've spent 30 minutes discussing like animation and like sharing your best techniques on like spacing or like all whatever you geek out on animation for 30 minutes. Okay, yeah, you both like bond, not bond actually. You both like overlap on this certain topic. Other than the fact that this person has become easy to talk to, what has it really done for the relationship? What are her values on, I don't know, relation? Like the values of, like a family setup, like gender roles, children, what you want to do in life to see if you're actually compatible. Like, are you going to be traveling half your life where you're not at home? Is that going to be okay with you if I do that? Like, these are the relationship building questions, but then you're asking about, then you're talking about animation, which is like great. You could do that with your coworkers at DreamWorks Studios when you work. I mean, if you wait, that's on. Anyway, next thing, I think we've had some understanding sig figs. Don't memorize the tricks. Understand the significance, relevance. So this one's about studying. When I wrote this down, I was thinking about studying. Significant figures. It's a scientific term we use to calculate, numbers pretty much. So, sig figs are important because when you measure something, let's say you measure with a ruler, you have your inches, then you have like those little tick marks in the inches. Let's say we use like meters. So you have your meters, your centimeters, and then your millimeters. There's nothing smaller than the millimeters, okay? So I can't measure something smaller than that millimeters, which means the measurement that I take, the number that I take, is gonna be that like at only till a millimeter. So if it's like a little bit closer to the 1 millimeter, I just round to the closest millimeter, okay? And so you're not gonna see a number more specific than that millimeter. And that's like just like kind of explains what significant figures are. So if you have a bunch of measurements like milliliters and then centimeters and then like I don't know whatever, you use sig figs to make sure that those numbers stay accurate because you're not going to have like let's say you have like a very very general number like you can only measure something in inches for some reason. Meanwhile you're measuring another thing in like milliliters, like tiny tiny measurements, and then you have to for some reason multiply these two numbers and put them together. Sig figs help into making sure that jumbled mess of numbers when you look at the result, it's accurate, so you don't like mess up stuff. Okay, so that's sig figs. So what I just explained there, kind of, while it was messy, very messy actually, at least it shows general understanding of what sig figs are. You have a lot of kids memorizing, like just like look off the flashcard, sig figs is XYZ. And yeah, it's a perfect explanation because the person who made the explanation understood sig figs very well, them probably having been using sig figs for like more than half their lives. But when you're trying to learn a concept, memorizing is not the right approach. You're at in that sort of sense, students are asking the wrong questions on how they understand these concepts. Like there sig figs kind of, there's like practice questions where you could like look at, all right, here's a number, how many significant figures are in this number, and then go, oh, there's this rule where I just take off the zeros off this end, and there's another rule where I just count the decimal places after this. And the problem with using tricks to get a correct answer on an exam is that you don't understand the fundamental purpose of significant figures. And when you can't like, we can't like, let's say we take the student and we just plunge him into a laboratory and we say, okay, we need to take these measurements and find these outputs. They're just like using these little tricks like a machine. It won't translate. They're going to make mistakes because they don't understand the fundamental reasoning of why, because the why is important. And so the incorrect question in this sort of situation, like just the idea, whenever I see students just rote memorizing flashcards or facts from like a slideshow or like some trick website they found, while it does help to synthesize information, or maybe even it helps to just get points on a test, for true understanding, it's not cutting it. Okay, it's the wrong approach. What would be the right question for that situation? Again, I'm not too sure, but you have to think at a higher gear and just try to figure out, like, students in general should be understanding why things happen and what the purpose of things are, instead of just looking at facts and memorizing those. But my explanation of sig figs was not solid at all. Maybe if I did a couple of reruns, or like continue saying what sig figs meant and eventually get to the core of it, which would make a lot of I'd get to the extract of the definition, which is like would make a lot of sense because I kept replaying in my mind. But that was just my messy jumble of saying what I thought was sig fig were on my first attempt, which it's gonna be messy. So the next wrong question. Am I stressing about this too much? My boss looked at me funny yesterday. I feel like he doesn't like me. Am I stressing about this too much? My friend talked to me about this girl in class, and I think she doesn't like this girl. But this girl, I really need her to like me, so I'm trying not to start too much drama. Am I stressing about this too much? These kind of situations, I wrote the right answer, the right question, not the right answer. The right question would be, why am I feeling this way? Some of these, asking the right questions sometimes has to be introspective, where you are trying to figure out what is inside yourself to find out why your actions, your external actions, are manifesting the way they are. Because as I said earlier, asking a different question at the root of it just comes down to changing your actions. And so if you're able to look into yourself, because you as a soul is put into this environment where things happen to you, but you can also inflict yourself onto the environment, specifically, and more importantly, the environment having people. You affect those people positively and negatively. And so some really good questions that could be better to ask yourself is questions about yourself. Instead of wondering, why am I stressing about this so much? No, sorry. Am I stressing about this too much? Like, instead of saying yourself, oh, I should worry about this less, a much, much better question would be to ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Why do I care so much about this person's opinion? Why do I drive myself through such pains to accomplish this goal? When you get to the deep, deep things and you come to a loss of words, it's tough. It is rough, but at least you got there before someone else did. Before someone starts asking you one too many questions, and then you're left with a pile of just silence. I think pile of silence is truly at the end of everyone's road of thought, but it at least be nice to have a couple landmarks on the way there, where you've organized a little bit of the way you believe, the way you think about yourself, your central beliefs, before you get to the point where you don't know why you exist or why you do the things you do. But this specific question here, why am I feeling this way, I think is a really important one. Just to put yourself onto the right track of making actions that help yourself. And that's just a whole other path of self conditioning, or therapy, which is another section of conversation. But when you are introspective and you ask questions about yourself to yourself, and you think about it, you chew on it, there more informed decisions can be made. I think it's been a pretty useful tool that I've been pulling out a lot recently. And what ends up happening in my experience is that you ask the question, you come to a thesis or a hypothesis about yourself, and then suddenly your mind regurgitates these sort of canon events that's happened to your life that sort of Google search match the thesis. Oh, I believe that I am this way around girls, and then 2 or 3 memories float up about the time when you were like this around her, or you said this to this person. And then those beliefs are either confirmed or denied, but nonetheless they sort of solidify the self-identification. Sorry, they solidify the idea that you have about yourself. And then the next thing is, do I like this? Do I not like this? If you don't like it, you need to reject it and say, this is not who I am anymore. I distance myself from this person. Well, it's not that you're unhealthily burying it. It's just that you are rising it up inside you, looking at it, and just letting it go. Oh, I'm not this person anymore. I'm different. I am now different because I now think this way. It's evidence to yourself that, having experienced that, you're more wiser, and you can act differently than next time or subsequent times. You don't bury it within yourself and oh, I'm not that, because that will come back out like a rubber band snapping back into position. It's more of, okay, this has happened, I'm looking at it, yeah, that sucked, but you know what, I am different now. I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, okay, I was like that, but now I'm like this, so I don't need that anymore. I'm free. And you move on, and you create new experiences to look back on, hopefully fondly. Hopefully fondly. Who am I voting for? Politics. Who should I vote for on this upcoming ballot? I think a higher gear question would be, why am I voting? Why? Is it for your family? Is it for yourself? Is it for your country? Is it for your friends? Is it for the sticker? Sticker's a pretty good reason. But I mean, like, if the sticker's the reason, who I'm voting for is pretty easy. Just like the first checkbox that comes up on the ballot. I think that's a good place to stop for that question. Why am I not good at singing? Why am I... Phew. Man, that's not a very actionable question, huh? Why am I not good at singing? I don't know, maybe it's because I suck. No, I think a better question is to ask, what are good singers doing? So then you go on YouTube, you can go on that one friend who's just cracked at singing, you just like sit next to them when they're practicing, just observe them. And you come back home and you say, you turn off YouTube and you say, okay, good singers are doing this, let me do that too. Let me just do it too. And then you just go do that thing. And then given enough time, I'm sure you become decent. This is a really good Alex Ramosi quote. You can become good enough at anything with about 20 hours of solid work. But the problem is most people spend years delaying that first hour. And so, knowing what you need to do is a lot different than doing that thing. But knowing what you need to do is a step ahead that a lot of people just don't have. Either they don't have access to it, or they just can't know it for some reason. But if you know that information, you're already so many ways ahead of a lot of other people who are after the same things you are, I think. And so information is powerful, and when you act on it, unstoppable. Given enough time. And I think that question of why am I not good at studying, well, singing, why am I not good at singing? Same, you just switch the word in for golf or studying, Oh, you just think in a higher gear. Why am I so bad at studying? I'm dumb. Why am I so bad at golf? I'm unathletic. No, it's think at a higher gear. What did I do on this test that I did bad on for me to deserve this grade? What am I missing in this golf swing that could cause me to not hit it as far as I'd want to? Or, where my aim is trash, or I'm always I don't know much about golf, but it just, you think in a higher gear, and some of these questions, they kind of make sense, but, relationally, it's interesting, so especially with the sister example, and I just urge you. I think that it came to the end of my list here, but the point here is that you're putting yourself at a higher level of thinking. You're elevating the personal narrative in your head from saying, "Oh, why is this happening to me?" to what am I doing and how can I change this based on myself, or based on what I can do. And so, yeah, this guys, this is a powerful one. I think this video hopefully will help you guys out. And yeah, so if you like this video, give it a like. If you did not like this video, please dislike. Go ahead, just hit the dislike button, man. And let me know in the comments, what's your favorite gel pen? Okay, well, actually, pause. It's been a while, boys. If you made it this far in the video, first of all, I really appreciate it. But now it's time for some real talk. And so it's been a while since I've been on YouTube, boys. Do you like the setup? I think the curtains look really bad, but the camera angle, this camera angle looks pretty interesting. Anyway, I changed my room around, and that's because I turned 20. I'm now 20 years old. Yeah, it's crazy. I turned 20 April 14th. So every year I change my room up. So this is the new setup. Yeah. Lamp's just on the ground because I don't want to be backlit. But yeah, 2 weeks ago I said I was back. And I thought I was, but I don't know. Being off the grind for like 12 weeks, it's hard to get back in, man. It's hard. But summer should be starting very soon. Next week actually. So actually next weekend I'm gonna be in Vermont, so I might record a video from there, which is pretty crazy to think about. But yeah, I'm back. Slowly. But yeah, this YouTube thing is tough, dude. Just that I can be even better with my speaking and captivation and storytelling. I'm gonna turn this off right here. But yeah. Whew. Voice is sore. Excited. I am excited for the summer. I'm excited for the videos I'm gonna make. I'm excited to get back in deep into the Word of God. I'm excited to be done with school. I'm excited for life. I am so excited. And so, yeah, I've not been like pausing with like other artistic endeavors. It's just that YouTube fell off for a solid 3-4 months. But we're coming back, boys. Weekly videos. Yeah, we're gonna do it. So thank you for joining me on this ride. Please subscribe. If you made it this far, I kind of feel that you find me a little bit interesting, so that's pretty awesome. And so you subscribing would truly mean the world to me.